G'day and welcome to another video. This particular video, I've been thinking about what are our options for stabilizing a car. So some of the options are we can trim the suspension, we can make it wider, we can change the mass by adding extra weight, and I know for flyers you can use a gyroscope to assist. So I've actually got an idea to add a static gyroscope as well as a gimbaled one, and I'll build another car to test that. But this is an undocumented video project that I built, but I hadn't been happy with it. The behaviour is a bit out, it doesn't drive right, but it was a good project, and it was a bit of a challenge. So some of the features, you can see I've got 4 engines, but these 2 sensors become a bailout option because this car doesn't have a throttle. It's connected to buttons, and each button selects a function. So one is reverse, the next one is neutral, which disconnects all the drive, and then these buttons represent the different powers on the engines. So the engine set to half. This one's this one's set to half, and these 2 are set to 3/4, and so how the gearing runs, or the selector works, is it selects half speed, 3/4 speeds, one engine speed, one engine speed plus a half, one engine speed plus 3/4, and then the last one is all of them together, which is represented by number 9. I've just used switches to fill out the controls. So 1, 2, 3 are nothing. 4 is my reverse gear. 5 is my neutral. So then 6 is the speeds up through the gearbox. As you can see, we're going slightly faster as we do each one. But I found that switching to 9 makes the car go really crazy, and I'm really disappointed by that particular behaviour. So I haven't worked out what the sweet spot is for speed of a car, so that's why I've thought about all the different options. So the suspension on this is actually working fine from a small vehicle point of view. It all behaves fine. It's just when we get up to the road speeds, we get all out of control. Now I may have inadvertently made a suspension glitch at the front with how that suspension works. So there's a few things there which I don't know what effect is affecting the vehicle once we get above those speeds. So once we hit that 9, we just really run out of control. So what I want to do is work on a different car, not this one, because it's actually really hard to keep driving, and we'll work out if a gyroscope will give us the functionality that we want. G'day, this is what I've come up with as a gyroscope. So the timber frame in the middle will rotate around. I've actually got a universal joint in the middle. I'll drop a block out so you guys can see that. So it's your standard 4 bearing. I'm using a cross piece as the middle to do the support. So that gives us the gimbaling directions in all phases. So that'll be able to spin us around. So the plan is, what I'll do is I'll connect a controller to that to lock it all, and I'll lock the gyroscope when we do our first test, so it'll just be carrying the mass around. And then what we'll do is we'll spin up the gyroscope with the vehicle just to do that testing, and then the last test will be to release the gimbaled bearings in the middle. So now what I'm working on is a suspension sort of feedback system. So if we put a suspension piece on each one of these arms, if it pushes up onto the vehicle, it can then impart that energy back into the vehicle to straighten it up. So so our first one is a static gyroscope. The secondary would be a gimbal gyroscope, so the vehicle can move around a little bit, but still the gyroscope will hold it steady. And then the last one is a stabilized gyroscope with using suspension to help keep the vehicle level to the gyroscope. And hopefully we'll be able to get a nice fast full speed petrol engine vehicle running. So so the plan is I'll use this sort of position on the framework, to add our wheels, our steering, and all that sort of stuff. So next time you see this, hopefully it'll look like a car. And g'day, welcome to my Gyroscope test car. It's straight off the lift. So basically all the suspension is crushed down, so I haven't actually done any suspension tunes yet. The steering is on default, haven't done any changes there. It is just rear-wheel drive at the moment, but the engine is set to full. Now, I haven't even moved the car. This is where I was building it. I've just taken it straight off the lift, and I'm curious to see how bad or good this car really is. Now you can see as we throttle around, the wheels are going. Interestingly, the front wheels are rubbing on the suspension pieces. So I have to do a quick fix on the front wheels. So you can see the left-hand wheel is jammed there at the moment. It's not working properly because it should be free spinning. So there's something else there that I've done wrong. I probably missed a bearing. So anyway, I'll do some quick fixes on troubleshooting. Yeah, no bearing. And all my parts are over on the other side, so I'm going to just making sure we've got the range of steering. I've just removed one block up front, and I've taken the lead blocks off the front of the car as well, so they're missing as well. So this is with the suspension fully set to just not even set at all. So as we accelerate the vehicle, the engine output throws torque through the vehicle and lifts it up at the front. So I'll do my testing up on this strip of road if I can get there. So I can say the handling at the moment is pretty rubbish. The turning is not so good. I'm slipping around the back. You can see I'm having trouble driving up this hill. So this configuration is really difficult to drive. There's my e-racer sitting up here as well. So this is ridiculously impossible to drive. So what we'll do is I'll just give it a bit of a run down the road. So you can't even accelerate down the road. So I'll do my minimum suspension tune. So the vehicle's not flat, so I'll just move it somewhere flat. Is that road flat? No, it needs to be further over. That road there's flat. Alright, so when I'm tuning suspension, this is how I do it. Basically move it until the car is lifted. So there you go, we've just taken one step on that one. So I'll do one step on this one. So this must be a relatively light vehicle actually for such a small suspension change. So all I've done is just put one step on the suspension. So enough to just move the car. You can see that it's settled back down onto the suspension again. So let's see if we can get an improvement of behaviour. So you can see that our back wheels are kicking around. Our front is staying fairly stable. It's not bouncing too much. So that's actually pretty good. We haven't rolled over or anything exciting. So what I do now is to get this vehicle tuned, I'd bring this up one more on each side. Give us a bit harder on the back. On some vehicles you'll probably need that almost all the way up, depending on their size, if you are running suspension. What you want to see on your suspension is actually the movement, but not too much. So we're still having the back wheels getting thrown around by the torque of the engine. The actual suspension itself is working really good. So we've got to counteract the engine torque of the fully upgraded Tier 5 engine. So the plan, I'll go up 2 now on this one, 2 on this one, and give it another run. So the plan is to hopefully get this vehicle operational at the level 5 engine at full power as like a racing car. So you can see here I'm still having a lot of trouble. Wants to spin around, wants to move around. The suspension now is possibly too hard. Right, so let's look at some of the other changes we can do. I was planning, because we've got access to a Tier 5 seat, which is not upgraded, no, fully upgraded. Yep, I can run second engine. Now what I'm going to do on this engine is I'm going to run this one at full. This one at full, and the rear one step removed. Now, in remote control cars, and I haven't seen it in real cars, but some cars that actually have the engine at the front and are actually four-wheel drive, they have the front wheel gearbox slightly ahead of the rear. So the effect is it wants to drag the car around because it's got more forward force. So let's see if this is actually a viable setup. I've never run this sort of setup before. The front wheels are not rotating, why not? I don't have fuel. But then also not switching off. They're not running as like the seat is. We're going to have a problem. Runaway vehicle. I'm going to crash it into something. Alright, back in control. Alright, so now we have the rear wheels on a gas engine set to 1 mark less than full, and the front engines are set to full. So we actually have an absolutely wonderfully viable setup for hooking along. This is just that suspension change, just that vehicle change, and I had the throttle at absolutely flat out. So now the change that I need to do for this, because I'm traveling so fast, is on the steering, using the E for the steering, I want to change the turn speed down. So the turn speed to 2 means that we can do some trimmed steering at speed, and then if we slow down and just hold our finger on the steering, we can get ourselves out all the way out to 27 degrees. So what it looks like is it's actually a slower steering on the start. So I will have to slow down for really tight corners, but on the road I should have some trim that I can use to just keep ourselves set up. Now you can see that the gyroscope just then appeared to be triggered even though it should be locked. So I'll just check that. Make sure the bearings on the gyroscope are locked, which are good. That gas engine one there accidentally wired the bearing and not the engine seat, so that should give us a bit more control as well. So let's get ourselves down this road. Nice long straight drag strip for us to play with. We're running pretty smooth considering we're scrap mechanic. Off the gas, get this turn done, get ourselves lined up down this straightaway again. Got to back off the gas there because we had a bit of a bounce. But this is those two gas engines on flat out. So this vehicle, with that change to have the two different gas engine throttles positions, has come out to give us a pretty good controllable car. I know it looks like I'm completely out of control there, it's just I haven't gotten used to steering on this particular one. There we go, we're absolutely flat out, got a little bit of a wobble because the front wheels are off the ground a bit, so I need more mass up the front, so we can steer a little bit better, a bit more controlled steering. But this thing is yeah, really good fun. Now that was a setting I didn't expect. So what we've done is we have the two different engines configured to the seat. So we've got the rear engine and the front engine. So the rear engine here is set to 1 step from max, and the front engine on that one is set to max. So what we're doing is we're running the front wheels slightly faster than the rear wheels. I'm not sure if the wheels generate torque, because there is you get torque, and you can actually have on front wheel drive cars torque steering. So in one direction, it's easier to turn your car or not. Alright, and that's before I've even gotten to tuning the gyroscope. So what we'll do is, before I start testing with the gyroscope on the car, I thought I'd better just do a comparison lap with just plain boring four-wheel drive. So the front wheels and the back wheels are all connected to the same engine, which is on max, and we'll see how it goes. So before, we had the back engine and the front wheels and the back wheels on different engines, and they'll set one adjustment behind each other. So here's my drag strip run. See if I can get the car travelling flat down the road. I know on start up there it was really difficult. It's still jumping around a lot. So from a sort of minimal point of view, the the car behaviour with four-wheel drive is definitely noticeable. The stability of this particular layout with all four wheels travelling at the same speed is close, but I would say the other arrangement with the engine set to one setting apart from the other is more noticeable for stability. So that's so four-wheel drive is good, but I personally, now that I've been playing with my car, this particular car, would say I'd like to go with that setup we had before. So the front wheels on their own separate engine. Both engines are set to the throttle of the seat, so your A, W, D, S keys, and then this rear engine set to one step release below the setting. Now I don't know if that one slot of setting makes much difference to the overall top speed, like i.e. are we only able to travel at the Tier 5 engine at a top speed, or do we have a top speed that's sort of in between the two, so it's not quite at the very top, but it's not one stroke down below, but a stroke in between. I just don't know how much difference it makes. This is still traveling really fast, traveling pretty good on flatness. Can I make the jump? Can I flip over? Yep. So stability wise, I prefer the two engines with the offset. Seems to be a lot smoother. I'm travelling down here quite easily. So we're actually travelling flat out on a Tier 5 engine. So yeah, I'm pretty impressed with that. So I've got the gyroscope wired in at the moment. So it's able to be started up. But what I'll do is I don't know if having it fully stationary attached to this chassis is what we actually want. I don't know if we need to release the bearings to have it gimbal around a bit more. So what we'll do is we'll power it up and I'll get driving and give you guys an idea of what okay, immediately it's apparent that it wants to creep to the right. Travels pretty good. No, it doesn't. Those front wheels want to lift up. It feels like the vehicle's twisted. Let me see if I can outrun this haybot and get on the road. So immediately with that gyroscope, the steering doesn't want to, has a lot of problem correcting the movement of the car. It really wants to creep over to the right. This is the hole with the log. Can't jump it from this side. Let's get some road travelling going on, just so we can have a good length of road to. I'm having a lot of trouble getting to full speed. As soon as we get close to full speed, it does want to dance around a lot more. So what we'll do is we'll get the gyroscope off, and I'll release the locked bearings on the controller. I'll just knock the controller right off. So now the bearings are free to run. I just realised we're not flat. Alright, so start that gyroscope up. It's now free to move around. The suspension pieces in the middle are there. They're only set to whatever default suspension is. I think they're one step on that. And you can see here I'm having real trouble keeping it on the road. This is just impossibly difficult. No, oh, we're actually flat out. We're actually full speed. So it does work in some circumstance. Now you saw me when I did that flip previously. It was very challenging to land the vehicle. So we've done all right there. On the grass, I'd expect it to be drifty because, you know, less low traction on the grass. Oh, there is haybots everywhere. Yeah, so gyroscope. I don't know. I'll switch it off. Just leave it free. And then I get myself turned around and back down the road. I don't know how many tiles this road is, but you can see from a rendering distance point of view that's a long way. Ooh. With that mass being loose under the vehicle, it is really hard to steer. So the challenge is, yeah, I'm not sure if it's clipping the ground is causing a problem, or if it's something else. But the vehicle there just drifted to the right quite aggressively, which makes it really difficult to keep it maintained on the road. So far, what would my go-to be? My go-to would be the suspension trim. Trim is really important. Making sure that your front suspension is not too hard. That's my first thing for you. The second one is four-wheel drive with two engines. Is really cool. I like it. It gives us a lot of stability. Gyroscopes for cars? No, I don't think they work very well at all. Unless I go for a bigger one, and then we'll have more imparted energy for the car. So the torque of the gyroscope will become a problem, not just the because you see there it steps the car around. So that's the torque of this small one. If I make it out of heavy concrete, that rotational impulse is more pronounced. But it does. The other thing I can do is take the suspension out. No, I won't do that. We've got a good example of what's going on. So my go-tos would be the front wheel drive as one step. The front rear wheels are one engine step down from maximum, and then the front ones are set to max, and that gives us a really nice fast car. Now you can see that the scale of this car is not too huge. It's quite an average sort of car size for scrap mechanic. If we put it in get it into the lanes, gives you an idea of the size of it. I've used big tyres on this just to give us a bit more of an off-roady opportunity to test all the suspension. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. It was a bit of a crazy video. One I wanted to find out for myself. You know, what is the best way to trim a car? Now with the forward trim running, what I can do. So that was only on 2 dots of suspension. So I'm not sure if anyone ever runs their vehicles that soft. But I'm going to take it right off. I'm going to dial this back to 1, 2, and this one off 2. So now we're on really soft suspension for the vehicle. I will relock the center bearings. Oh. Just to hold the gyroscope clear. So now we're running really soft suspension. You can see the torque of the car as it takes off really wants to bounce around. So it's actually quite challenging to drive. But that is that four-wheel drive with the rear engine being one step down from one step down from a configuration point of view. So from a driving perspective, this is still, not too bad. I'm quite. It's challenging. It's fast, but so the first thing for speed is to trim your steering as well. Make sure you're not running really fast, full locks of steering when you're going quick. And then once you slow down, you get your steering to full lock, and then you're good to go. Yeah, so hopefully with the ramblings and some of you guys out there, do you want to do some trims to your creations to see if you get a better behaviour on the road? Off-road is a completely different thing again. You do have to pay a bit more attention to the corner-to-corner stiffness of your vehicle. So what I mean by that is you've got a front left and front rear right align when you're going over different bumps and things. If you're going over fast, that's what the suspension's for. If you're going over slow, you need a different style of linkage to give you more movement. I've got those on my other vehicles in my other videos. Yeah, so here we go, back to the start, and we've got that crazy sloppy suspension. So what's more important for stability on your vehicle? So that is sloppy suspension. Is that four-wheel drive with the different ratios of the engines gives me the best behavior change for this particular vehicle. It went from completely undrivable to we're getting down there with a nice clip. That was flat out most of the way. Only did a drop off on the throttle when we had to do a quick trim for turns. Yeah, hope you liked the video. Thanks very much. Thanks for watching.